Hello, I'm on to revisiting of the Prokofiev Sixth Sonata, first movement, second theme. Measure 40, if I've counted right. Okay, I'm looking at a notation. Notations usually mean something to me, but sometimes they don't. I have written in, the word in, at the beginning of the Prokofiev. I know I had previously prepared the way for this theme by taking the two notes that are indicated for the two hands in the left hand alone. Oh, I just notated that. Those of you who happen to have seen the previous video might have heard me say that, oh, the più mosso is going to be a little faster, obviously. It says poco più mosso. And I wrote into to give it that feeling. So let me go back. I should, like all interpreters, I should look at all the clues. I'm going to look up 112. I know that it's a little slower than 1 per second, but since I have multiple metronomes available, I'm going to dial up 112. There's 112. Not far off. I mean, it's the kind of theme that I have in my ear, I've had in my ear for a long time. So, this would be 112. And I want some heightened flow. Not more energy, it's more... I've redivided measure 47 to take both whole notes in the left hand, but because of that, what Prokofiev has written, for whatever reason, was a grace note in the upper of the two whole notes. I've got to make sure that I move downward rather than upward, which would be the more normal direction in which to go. So I'll get used to it. Left hand has to make sure it knows to let go early enough. I think very small detail, but I'm going to indicate thumb on the D grace note because it'll just set up my hand for what happens later. So let me re-examine. So many fingerings possible, especially at this. Right now I'm doing some finger substituting. Starting on 3 in my left hand, going to 1, switching again to 3. Yeah, that'll probably do it. Normally I wouldn't, if I weren't in a project like this, I wouldn't be quite so obsessive about marking down fingerings. But I think that sometimes I really lose it by assuming I know, and especially because this work time, not right now, but these days and weeks, are being interspersed with breaks that will interrupt my review. It's really important that I leave a strong sense of where I've been and what decisions I've made so that I can see visually a reminder of the decisions. So, right hand as well as left hand. Just going to shift fingering. That's important to note. Several things. You'll notice my B is still holding. That's a mistake based on what Prokofiev has indicated. He wants the left hand, or at least the bass note, to be eliminated by then. He's going to reiterate it, but not as a pedal point. He's going to move on. So, one other mistake is I've been holding the whole sonority, and that's a mistake as well. I have to indicate that I'm going to provide a sostenuto, but only for the bottom note of my left hand. So it's off. Thumb notes. So thumb going to thump, let go, let go, let go. I wonder why I've chosen fifth finger here. I'm going to change my mind. Make it third finger. Just gives me that much more control over this chromaticism in turn. So. And I forgot the thumb in my left hand. My fake left hand. My left hand is taking. Okay. And then since I needed that fifth finger, I'm just going to substitute. I find, would I notate this? Okay, I'm going to notate it for fun and awareness. I find myself actually going 3, 2, 1, 2, 1 to 3 to 5. So I'm going from one end of my hand to another. I could go 1 to 5, but handing off to 3, I feel like a whole relay team all by myself. It's fun. These fun, huh? Oh, isn't that interesting? This reminds me when my first piano teacher used to have me like this. And of course, what would happen most of the time is that your ear would make it come out evenly rather than unevenly. So you have to get used to how it feels as well as how it sounds when you're playing things that don't belong with one another. So in this case, we start off, the theme first is played on C, then is played on B. But there are slight alterations, that's why I was playing them half, to see how much parallelism. Still perfect fourth. Here's a major third, and here's a minor third. Then a perfect fifth, and a tritone. Goes back to E, and lo and behold, before you know it, you're on the note you were on in the version that starts on on C. So that's one of the reasons he adds notes, I guess. Very curious, and I wasn't aware of that before. Rather cool. It does end when all is settled on D. All right. First time it was doubled in both hands. Doubled by the hands. Here it's shared by the hands. Do I need to do that? No, I could avoid doing that if I really wanted. That'd be silly. It's just not worth it. His hand division on the F sharp, and his works better. I shouldn't reiterate the G sharp either. The G sharp stays for considerable time. 1. I didn't notate what I'm going to use here. Oh. Ah. You might want to know what my mutterings are about. My right hand can pretty well sit still and play all of its notes comfortably without moving around. That's a good discovery. Even here, I need to notate that the thumb just plays 1, which is there. I've been fiddling around wanting to make it move more than it needs to. Thumb, 3rd. Okay, now what? The right hand, with support from this AB cluster, plays the theme in its original key, C, on B. So I remember that this variation, or varied version of the theme, uses this little imitative thing, both voices in the right hand. The only fingering decision I really have to make is in 57. I've been leaping and using 1 to 1 on the bass in the lower voice. The right hand could go from 5 to 2, or it could go to 5 to 3, or it could go to 5 to 4. Okay, it could go to 5 to 5 too. I guess first I have to figure out what I prefer here. Choice. 3rd finger there on F sharp in 58. third finger on the F sharp. That worked really nicely. You know what? I'm going to stick with 2. It's not necessarily what makes me most comfortable down here, but it certainly is what makes me most comfortable getting to it. And then instead, the third is a little awkward to get to, and the third is going to be used on F sharp. So that's nice. So probably, maybe with sostenuto, I don't know yet. Up the 4th. Ah, no wonder. Goes to C, then to B, then it skips to G. What did it do here? So had I remembered that, then I would have done it. So in other words, it's being consistent, which is very nice of Prokofiev. So have to leave room for the F natural, which is really an E sharp. Maybe I should say for the E sharp, which is really an F natural. Meanwhile, back at the left hand, a pile of thirds, white note thirds. Okay, I wrote a fingering that wasn't quite explicit enough. I wrote, starting on D, 5-4, then I stopped. And then 2 notes later, I wrote a 4th finger. So what I didn't write was what seemed obvious at the time, 2nd finger. What I played was 5-4-3-2-1, finding myself with not enough fingers. Well, that would have worked. But let me find out if... symmetrical, very easy. I didn't use exactly the fingering I said I would. I also have to determine pedaling and the like. Okay, so Prokofiev indicates 2 significant things about sustaining. One is the B that lasts for 3 measures. 2 is the BA in the right hand that only lasts for 1 measure. And I still have it there. So if I'm pedaling with my sostenuto it's not going to work. Let's see. That was a different fingering. Damper. It's not bad because of the nature of the sonority. And like many pedaling decisions like this, it doesn't quite jibe with the notation. In other words, the intention of the composer is a little unclear. If I play with damper pedal, the whole note of the right hand is going to be held just as long as the left hand. Doesn't sound bad. With the sostenuto, I still am not letting go early enough on the fourth measure. Well, I'm finding myself, if I use the sostenuto, still using my damper pedal. But it does provide me with a little clarity. So I'm going to violate the integrity of the right hand's quarter note, whole note, and use a sostenuto pedal that effectively holds it for 3 measures. If I had done the reverse and used just the damper pedal, the same effect would have resulted. In other words, I would have had to, for the sake of the left hand sustaining note, I would have had to hold everything. So the sostenuto pedal is just actually a tiny lessening of texture rather than a violation of intent. So I think it's a reasonable decision, and it's especially reasonable considering I've already decided that the sostenuto pedal will be my friend in this movement. Probably in the piece. I gotta say, it sounds abrupt when I let go of the pedal. Subtlety never hurt anyone. Okay, so I have to learn this left hand. At least I have to learn its intent. I remember saying thumb last time. Certainly 3 on G sharp and this little arpeggio at 58. So 5 to 3 to 1. Actually, if I go to 4th finger on F sharp, then my new finger, my new division with the grace note in the left hand, is rather nice. It's even more pleasant than it was originally. Maybe 4 to 5. The only problem with 4, not 4, that one, this one, is that it's very hard to find. It takes thought and placement. Do I want it? Is it worth it? That's the question of the day. Is it worth it? Well, right now it's much simpler than it was a moment ago. But a moment ago I was playing hands together. It's not bad. chord notation can get in the way. I had written a fourth finger in measure 58, which happens at the bottom on the right. It happens that that's close enough to this G in my right hand in measure 62, directly under it, that I could interpret it as belonging to that. So sometimes you have to draw a line indicating, just a clarifying line. It's not a musical line or anything like that. It's just to say that fourth finger belongs here. Otherwise, I found some screwy things that I thought were my decision, that I was led by, and they're absolutely wrong because they shouldn't even be attributed to that point in the score. So be careful. I'm going to move my left hand from third finger to third finger again, because third on 60 feels really good. So this one on B, second and the minor third and the second, and minor third, okay. So we have a simple sequence. Back to the first one, only has to be fingered differently because the right hand is now busy. Lots of fingering decisions written here. I vaguely remember the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s, as in 64. Oh yes, I remember this. 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. That's what I chose to do. 1, 3, 4, 5. 3 in measure 64. On the turn to B. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, it's interesting about stored memory that it wasn't perfectly reinforced. It doesn't snap back vividly, but there's enough of a vestige of that memory stuck in here somewhere that some elements of the sound, some elements of the gesture come back to me as a familiar friend. So obviously I found enough reinforcement and enough clarity to create a sense of identity that's so much easier than it was when I worked on it. You know, even the three rather asymmetric 1, 2, 4 groups. This augmented chord, this really comfortable half step and 2 black note chord, the F sharp major chord, all three of those, they're dramatically different in feel, but I mean they're easy to duplicate, they're easy to keep memorized. I didn't know I had that memorized. They have a strong enough identity that sticks well, so that's good too. Think. Repeat. Okay, to one of Prokofiev's wonderful recurrent obsessive patterns. Anyway. Was how accompanimental all of this is, and how offbeat this melody is. reinforce where I feel I have a strong left-hand identity here, right there. It's in the middle of 65, so. No, that's too late. Approach it. So this downbeat is where the rhythm clarifies. So this is a gathering place, what I'd call it. What I've started calling, I guess, an emotional oasis, a nice place to go and kick back and have a nice sip of water or something. Everything simplifies, in other words. You let go. Let's see. Okay, so at least when the right hand starts to come in at staggered rhythmic intervals, it's consistent for 3 beats. It goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So it's not that bad. So and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so it just holds. The only, I don't want to call it unpredictable element, is when it holds and then it starts after and of 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Good. If I'm to be truly authentic here, I would do that because Prokofiev wrote a whole note in the A, E. Or I could go and get real fancy. Or I could use my sostenuto. As it happens, the E gets let go and reiterated by the left hand. So what I'm going to do is going to put an extra stem in the left hand. So what's going to happen is this. So that I can more or less sustain it and actually reinforce it. Not worth it to do this. And I also don't need to hit it because it will have decayed a 71 are to be played with the left hand. It's a 2/4 add-on, an extension of the phrase. Oops. I think it's a C natural. It's not clearly indicated, but if Prokofiev is being true to the notational system, it should be a C natural. There's a C sharp in the measure before, but that should be voided. Feel that as an extension, otherwise it confuses me. And add this, then start again. Yes. My fingering is a little suspect. I don't know whether I want 5 going to 2, 3, 4, 5. One advantage of going 5, 2, 3, 4 sets me up for the thumb on F. I never wrote anything down, so I don't know what my thought process was there. Too bad. I certainly want 5 because that sets up the grace note. Never notated it, sorry. The special treatment. The right hand that gets the melodic design and the consistency. I have a fingering written down. Let's see. Okay, I have written here at 82, I know I'm just sloshing on ahead just to see what's coming up. But I've written the quality of the chords, which helps me immeasurably. Again, not a pun. I've written diminished and minor and diminished and minor. So I get used to the hand feel, and I don't have to worry about whether I'm reading all the accidentals right, because it's the relationship of the notes and keys that I'm learning instead. And that really does simplify. I'm glad for what I wrote. That was a good idea. Now, going back to 73, where the right hand is simple. Left hand breaks out from the pattern. You place a pile of fourths. It rejoins the left, the right. But my fingering and my grouping changes to enable me to mark what's different in the left hand. So the left hand actually the left hand here maintains its pattern. The notes are under, the keys are under the hand, and then I shift one note later. Oh no. I know what's going on. I put on a timer. I just need to finish this passage. Almost. Nope. Yes. You know what? It's amazing how I shift my visual attention to my left hand and it immediately works. So I have to know that not only what I'm concentrating on, but how that concentration manifests itself. So. Okay. It's worth it to remind myself the left and the right hand are sharing space in 75. Left hand has to let go of the A so the right hand can occupy it. Okay, how am I going to remember that? Perfect fourth, tritone, perfect fourth, tritone. Also 5-2-4-1, excuse me, 5-2-4-1-4-2-5-1. So there's a unique fingering for each of those four similar intervals. 5-2-4-1-4-2-5-1. Anagrams, fingering anagrams. Let's see, once I have it, how easy it is. Whoops. I see I've indicated up, right, right above left. Had I used this Italian term, it probably would have been easier for me. Instead I wrote up because I use up to mean a variety of other things as well. Over might have been more useful. Over, under. Okay, here I have to tell myself right hand is playing a black note, then 3 white notes. Why? Because I have to shift all my attention now to the left-hand chords that I just talked about before. So, if I don't have my attention shifted, I won't learn them in context. By simplifying what I think about the right hand, I make it behave more automatically and much more supportively. So, when I didn't do that, it just distracted me from my left hand. So I was busy peering at the key, at the notes, which is not what I wanted to do.